What's up, everybody? Welcome back to racingnews.com. Welcome back to another one of our previews. Well, we got an interesting one here. We've got some big races coming up this weekend, but it's time for the Arlington Million again. And once again, this year, it's going to be at Colonial Downs. And I know people always kind of get sad, and I kind of do too, when the Arlington Million comes back around, because we do miss Arlington Park, and that is the rightful place, obviously, for this race, but it's just not the case. So we'll move on, and we'll try to handicap this race, and we'll try to pick a winner in this spot. All right, Arlington Million at Colonial Downs, going 1.25 miles on the turf. Of course, a grade 1 event. I will put it up on the screen for you now. Field of 8 this year. Look, I think it's a pretty good field. I mean, I think it's very interesting. We're going to have a heavy favorite. We'll talk about him, as we go down the horses here. But I think this is fun. I think it's going to be a fun race. I think this is going to provide some intrigue. I don't think it's as easy, maybe, as some might think. All right, let's go through them. Off a horse that last time out was third in the Wise Dan Stakes, beating a length and a quarter behind Laganos and Mercante. Of course, Laganos not here, but a horse that has been winning in bunches, at Churchill Downs and at Fairgrounds as well. So no shame to lose to him. Mercante, pretty good horse as well. So lost behind a couple of good ones last time out in the Wise Dan. 2 races back, a winner and an allowance optional claiming event. 3 races back, a winner and an allowance race, and 4 races back, won the Autumn at grade 3 at Woodbine there, and that's before Todd Pletcher had this horse. I think this one's going to show up and run well. He kind of does every time. Really classy one here, 8 wins out of 18 tries. I don't see any reason why this horse isn't going to show up and give it a good shot. Is he good enough? That's the big question. I'm not quite sure. Good race last time out to show us that he's in this category, but is he good enough to beat what could be a better field in this spot today? So we'll see what happens there. The number 2 is Layabout. This is a horse coming off of a poor effort last time out. Ran 7th, beaten 10 lengths last time out at Gulfstream Park. That was the first race off of the layoff, though. Hadn't seen this horse since February, where he was running 4th in at Gulfstream Park in a grade 2 event behind some, just no races. That is something that definitely is important to show that this horse can win a grade 3. This is a tougher spot, no doubt about it, but I do think the horse is in with a little bit of a shot. I'm not going to use him, but not the craziest pick if you want to use this horse on top. Let's get to last year's Arlington Million winner, and that's the number 3, Fort Washington. Fort Washington, like I said, last year's Arlington Million winner. He won by a half length over what I think was a little bit of a weaker field than what we're going to see here, but it wasn't an awful field by any means. The problem, the next 3 races after that weren't all that great. However, they were up against pretty tough company. Went to Kentucky Downs and ran 6th. Went to the Pegasus World Cup Invitational Turf, ran 6th. Tried the Canadian Turf, ran 4th. That was the race where you really thought, okay, there's a good spot. Dinner Party, 2 races back at Laurel. That was on Preakness Day. That field was pretty weak. Won by 3/4 of length and then 7th last time out in the Wise Dan. Is the defending champion. A lot of respect for this horse. I've always kind of liked this horse. Feel like he's a hard trier. I don't like him in this spot here, though. I went a different direction here. I'm not going to be upset the horse wins. I kind of like him, but not going to be on tickets, so I guess I will be upset. But I did go against number 3, Fort Washington, this year. I usually go against, and I will go against the number 4 Integration in this spot. He is, like I said, number 4, a horse that came here and tried the Arlington Million last year, got 3rd, only beaten a length and a quarter, ran 3rd in an allowance, then won an allowance, and then last time out 5th in the Manhattan up at Saratoga. I say I go against this horse. I think he's the classic hit the board but don't win type. Now, he is 6 for 18 lifetime, and I'm not trying to slight this horse whatsoever. $1.8 million tells you that he is very classy. His problem is when he gets up in races of this caliber, he just comes up a little bit short. Sometimes he has excuses that are legit, and sometimes he doesn't. He's a very honest horse. I just hardly ever play him to win in spots like this. Like I said, when he gets a little bit lower in class, yeah, go for it all the time. He has some nice grade 2 victories, on the docket for him. He won the Red Smith back at Aqueduct back in the day and looked pretty good doing that. He won the Virginia Derby right here at Colonial Downs as well. He has some nice grade 2s and grade 3 victories. He just has trouble getting this big time win, in this grade one event. So I'm against him here as far as a win. I am not against him at all as far as hitting the board. I think he's a horse you could definitely key underneath. That's just what he does. Drop back, make a big run, and kind of come up a little bit short. The heavy favorite for this race I'm expecting to be number 5, Burnham Square. There's really no reason why he shouldn't be the favorite here. The 3 recent races, I should say, have all been pretty electric. Won the Elkhorn by 9 3/4, then won the Louisville by 4 3/4, and then won the Sherrillwood last time out just by a neck in that spot. Not as strong of an effort as those last 2, but the last 3 races in general have been very good. Now, one thing that I may kind of have a question, I mentioned it. The last race was at 1 3/8 and he won, and it was fine. You never want to discredit a win, but it wasn't as good as the 2 races at 1.5 miles. So maybe this horse wants every bit of 1.5 miles, and that's where we see him at his absolute best. I think there are signs to say that is possible. The problem is we just haven't seen him face that top-notch horse once moving over to the turf. We saw him take on the top horses on the dirt in that 3-year-old season. Then on the turf, he did run a Kentucky Downs. I like Kentucky Downs, but that's kind of a throwout, okay, as far as what's going to happen after Kentucky Downs is over because of the, illogical kind of surface or configuration or whatever. Okay, so then we ran an allowance at Gulfstream Park, got second. Then won the Elkhorn, didn't beat a whole lot, and then 2 races that were pretty weak at Churchill Downs. I very much question what this horse is going to look like against the top-notch caliber horses at 1.25 miles. That's the thing. This is not 1.5 miles. I'll say that again. Also, whether it's true or not, Ian Wilkes says, hey, the reason why we're not running him against these tougher horses and shipping him up, let's say, to Saratoga, he doesn't ship well. He when he ships, he doesn't run very well, and he doesn't like to ship. Well, I know it is just, coming from Kentucky over to Colonial Downs there in Virginia, but still, you got to go a little ways, right? So it isn't really running at your home track. So I think there's a little bit to be worried about there. I guess what I'm trying to say is I totally understand why this is going to be the heavy favorite. I understand if you're listening to this video and said, don't complicate it, just pick him. I think he's a beast. That's great. I'm going to go against him on top. I'm going to go a little bit of I don't know how big of a price this horse will be. We'll get to it in a second who I'm going to pick to win. But I respect Burnham Square a lot. I will not be shocked at all if he wins this race. I expect him to be 3 to 5. I have just enough question marks to try to go against a 3 to 5 shot in this race. All right, let's keep going. Number 6 is Test Score, and Test Score coming off of a half-length loss last time out in the Grade 1 Manhattan. Got beat by Deterministic there, and like I said, only got beat a half-length, and to be quite honest, Deterministic would be my pick if he was in this race, which he is not. So that makes me like Test Score quite a bit. Now, 2 races back at Churchill Downs, the Turf Classic, this horse did no running whatsoever. I'm just choosing to draw a line through that one. 3 races back, won the Pegasus World Cup Turf by a neck and ran pretty darn well. That was the first start as a 4-year-old. This horse, a pretty classy 3-year-old as well, won the Twilight Derby, won the Belmont Derby. That was a Grade 1 event. Won the Transylvania, a really tough race there at Keeneland. Very close to a couple other ones, third in the Hollywood Derby, almost got the job done there. Won the Twilight Derby. That was a Grade 2 event at Santa Anita. So pretty darn good. Raced against Burnham Square in that Nashville Derby at Kentucky Downs. Like I said, I don't take much from that. Burnham Square did finish ahead of him that day, but it was a competitive race. So look, I think Test Score coming off the best race of his career. I think he's pretty live in this spot here. I think he'll show up for Grand Motion and run very well. Also, look, Manny Franco, pretty good rider up in the NYRA circuit, usually has some success up at Saratoga. He will skip a day at Saratoga to come around right here. And I don't think that's not for nothing. I think that is relevant in this spot. All right, let's keep going. Number 7, Mercante next. Boy, this horse has been close a few times, right? He just can't quite break through after last year when he won not the Arlington Million, but the Arlington Stakes at Churchill Downs. He then, I don't know, I thought he would win a couple more. He just hasn't. He's lost 7 in a row. And yeah, look, I think he shows up here again with an okay chance. I couldn't get all the way there for him to win. I think he'll show up here and run well. I couldn't do it though. I'm going to skip out this time on the number 7 Mercante. Finally, the number 8 is Grand Orient, and this is a horse coming off of a victory last time out at Gulfstream Park for Saffie Joseph. Got the job done by a length and a quarter, ran pretty well. 2 races back, also won at Gulfstream Park in a stakes race. Those were the 2 races for Saffie Joseph, and so he's ran his 2 best races under Saffie. Big jump up from ungraded stakes kind of during the off season at Gulfstream to here. That's going to be the big question mark. Paco Lopez does get aboard, so it'll be interesting to see what he does in this race. He's always kind of interesting. Let's just say what he might do. So, look, I project this horse is going to be a little bit of a long shot. I don't like this horse from a class perspective, but I think there's worse long shots you can play. So if you're looking for a long shot, I don't think number 8 Grand Orient. I don't think that's that bad of a play at all. All right, that is the field of 8. Like I said, I'm going to take a little bit of a shot against Burnham Square. Won't be shocked if he wins. I'm going number 6 Test Score on top. I'll go number 6 Test Score on top here. Loved the Manhattan last time out. Thought he ran really well. I just want him to run that race right here. Run that race again. I think you're right there with a chance. Yeah, and I think he's going to put himself in position where he can win it. So number 6 Test Score going to be on top for me. I will put number 5 Burnham Square in second. I'm not going to be shocked whatsoever if Burnham Square gets the job done. Right to the inside, number 4 Integration, I'll put in third. Kind of what I do with him in these spots is kind of put him in third. So I'll do that with the number 4 Integration, and then I'll go number 1 Dresden Row in fourth. So I'm going to go 6-5-4-1, 6-5-4-1 in this year's running of the Arlington Million. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Hit that like button if you like it. Subscribe if you really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, good luck if you're playing Colonial Downs on Saturday.